What does your warm up look like, both pre-session and warm-up sets? Okay, so I think he's referring to if you do any stretching or foam rolling pre-session, and then how do your warm-up sets look for basically preparing for, let's say, your first exercise? I guess the common thing that people run into is they're not sure because they might be tiring themselves out, or maybe they're doing too much or not enough, and then they risk hurting themselves. So that's actually not a bad one.
Yeah, so personally, I think it's a good idea to warm your body up in general. So like for me, it can be going for a quick 5-minute walk. It can be jumping on the recumbent bike for 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 7 minutes, somewhere in there, just to get my body temperature elevated. So that way I'm prepared to actually start lifting some things. Once I get my warm up in, as far as that goes, if I'm a little on the tighter side, because I am 52, so sometimes it's more so like my lower back, my hips get a little tight from sitting in the chair, working here as a coach. So just doing some light stretching to limber myself up. But outside of that, I don't get into too much heavy stretching before I start training. And once I'm kind of prepared in that regards, then it's acclimating the sets towards the top sets. So just as an example, so let's say I'm doing some type of flat press, might be in bar, 2 sets for 10 to 15 reps. And then from there, it might be 95 pounds for about 10 reps. Then I'll go 135 for about 8, maybe 155 for 5 or 6 reps, just inching it up, slowly but surely. And I'll probably get close to a top set. Maybe it's like 20, 25% under it, and only hit it for about 1 or 2 reps, just so I get a sense of what that heavy load feels like. So it's not so much a shocker going from, let's say, 135, and then now I'm already up to over 200 pounds for a main set. So just kind of slowly kind of inching it up, but at the same time, not doing so many reps where you're tiring yourself out, because obviously you still want to have a lot of gas when you do your first main set. So that's in a nutshell how I do things. And if we can go back, 10 years ago, when everybody was foam rolling and doing all this warming up for like an hour straight, I'm like, man, your guys' warm-ups longer than the workouts themselves. Like I would literally go to like our 3MJ mashups, and I would be finished with my entire workout, and some people would still be warming up. It's crazy. And I was kind of the weird guy at the time, like, how's you done already? We're not even warmed up. Like, I'm the weird one.
That's a trend, though. I think that's shifted now into maybe even the opposite direction because of the hit, has Reser faced on YouTube, right?
Personally, I'm not at like quote unquote athlete. I don't go play basketball. I don't go do tennis and all that kind of stuff. So I only warm up for what the endeavor calls for. It's an upper body session. Well, I just need to warm up to get through my upper body session. Same thing with lower body. So I don't need to do any more than what I need to do to accomplish that goal.
First off, have you made the quote unquote, we'll say mistake or lesson, we can say, in the past where you did do warm-ups like that, where you've overdone it or done way too many reps? What is your experience with that, if you have?
Oh, like if I've done too much to where like once I got to that top set, I'm like already gassed out.
Yes.
Yeah, I've done that. It's not a bad idea. No, I would say it's a bad idea, but it's okay if it happens because it teaches you where the thresholds are at. And obviously, I've had experience too where I didn't warm up enough. And it's almost like this weight just feels way too heavy, or oh, crap, I got a little strain here, because I just wasn't properly warmed up. So you kind of learn those thresholds by gaining that type of experience. So I don't think we should always aim to be perfect, because chances are you're never going to be perfect. You're going to be off here and there, and that's okay. But if you're paying attention, you're taking notes, then you definitely prepare yourself as far as the course of your career, knowing how to do these things.
So basically, as the weight increases set to set, as you're preparing for that top set or the working weight, if you will, then your reps will start to decrease, and you're not afraid to just hit a single even as you get
so
to that
saying
last,
like maybe 25% below the top set. It's like, let me just hit it for 1 or 2 reps just to get acclimated to that load. Because obviously if you do more than that, then you're going to get fatigued out. Like a terminology wise, I'm thinking warm up, let me walk, let me get on a recumbent. And as far as like acclimating, so acclimation sets, so it's like heavier load, reps come down. So you're acclimating to heavier loads, like those main sets. That's how I kind of frame it.
Gotcha. Yes.
So heavier loading, lower reps as you go. So that way you're conserving energy, but at the same time, you're getting that exposure to heavier loading. So it's not so much a shell shock. Because, you've seen people in the gym, they're on the bench press, they're doing 1 plate, maybe a set or 2 at 10, and then they go immediately to a top set. It's like going from 135 to like 250 or 300. It's kind of a shocker. Oftentimes you'll hear people say like, you know what, my second, third set actually felt better than the first one because they're a little bit more acclimated after that first main set. I still get that even with acclimation up to that first set. Sometimes the second and third one feel a little bit better just because you're getting a little bit more exposure.
Have you ever tried having your last warm-up for a single, just slightly heavier than the working weight that you're going to be doing?
Personally, I don't do that, but I know there's
Okay.
people out there that do that. That say there's a positive in that, and I can see that. Like you touch it for one, it's like it's still manageable. You're not going for broke on it. Then when you
Right.
kind of back off and you do your main sets, it just feels easier. Going from 315 down to 300 or 275 or whatever, it's going to feel like, okay, this feels easier. It's kind of
Right.
like back off sets, right? If you have one or two top sets and then you have a couple of back off sets, like the back off sets feel like butter. You're like, oh, this feels relatively easy now.
You've never tried that before though?
I've done it here and there. It's not like a consistent part of my
Okay.
warm up / acclimation setup.
And to be clear for the listeners, that's not a 1 rep max. That's just a little bit heavier than the working weight within the
And
rep range you're working.
I'm also 52 and I've been training for 37 years. So at this point, I better know where my thresholds are at. And I just don't want to take a risk of like doing something heavier than I really need to be doing. That's
Right.
part of the reason why I don't really go with that setup. But yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it works for a lot of people.
In a year's time, I have 5 pounds more muscle. I'm a realist. Father time catches up, rate of progression slows down, but it doesn't mean like I'm not training as if I'm trying to put on some more size. My body's going to tell me what I can and can't do. And I just have to make sure I'm listening to it, because sometimes the ego can still get in the way. Even though we're older, still want to get after it and kill it. You know, you still want to move more weight, but sometimes my ego will say, all right, Jeff, let's get back into squatting, you know, and I did that like a month ago. I did 2 sessions, and after the second session,